Prince William County is in Northern Virginia and is considered part of metropolitan Washington, D.C. They were in the news this summer because their jail board voted to end their cooperation agreement with ICE. IRLI did an investigation into the county's cooperation agreement with ICE up until the point where it ended. And we're joined today by Jason Hopkins, the investigative associate at IRLI, who worked on this. Jason, welcome, and tell us, what are these these cooperation agreements, and what did the investigation find?
Hey, Brian, thanks for having me today. Yeah, so 287G, I know it's kind of a strange name. Most people don't know what that is. It's taken from a section of the Immigration and Nationality Act. In a nutshell, local jurisdictions, local law enforcement agencies that enter into a 287G agreement with Immigration and Customs Enforcement basically better kind of fosters a cooperation between the two, between a local entity and also and ICE. So basically, when a law enforcement agency enters into a 287G, their law enforcement agents are able to, or officers rather, are trained in federal immigration enforcement, and that allows them to, when a subject is taken into local custody, they're able to check their immigration status and other immigration enforcement measures and be able to report that and notify ICE. Hey, this person that we have in custody right now is here illegally, has been arrested on criminal charges. And so it's able to give ICE better eyes and ears really across the country and all these thousands of local jurisdictions. In Prince William County, the local jail board there decided to end their 287G program. And this was a program that had been in place since 2007. So what we wanted to do was just see, okay, in all those years that the life of the program, what had it accomplished? How many illegal aliens were transferred over to ICE during the life of the program? So that's exactly what we did. And I was the lead researcher on there, and I sent in a records request with Prince William County and asked them, okay, for the entire life of the program, so from 2007 all the way until early 2020 here, how many aliens had been transferred over from Prince William County custody over to ICE? And we found that number was actually just shy of 10,000 individuals. And these were people who had been arrested, many of them for violent crimes, charged with murder, rape, other heinous activity. And all of them have been transferred over to ICE. So it really just kind of shows you the enormity of it. And we're just speaking about one county here, not far from Washington, D.C., the capital of the country. And ICE had told us, this program, 287G, was a big reason for these people that were flagged by ICE and then eventually taken into their custody. So the program does have results. We see that in the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other question, Jason, going forward, when people here illegally are arrested by the local police there, what's going to happen with them? And will any of them be released back into the community? Right.
There were a lot of supporters who actually mistakenly thought ending 287G meant that there would be no ICE in Prince William County. That's not true. We will still have ICE agents working and operating in Prince William County. But what this will mean is there's going to be less cooperation between local law enforcement and federal immigration officers. So the days could be over where someone's taken into custody, who knows, they're arrested for a DUI or maybe even a homicide, and someone's there to actually be trained and checked on their immigration status and let federal immigration authorities know. What does this result in? A lot of these people, if they are able to post bail, they're just simply released back into the community. We know this will happen because it's happened many times in the past, certainly in sanctuary jurisdictions. And ICE has told us this will have an impact on public safety in Prince William County.
So, Jason, I know there was a lot of pushback from the local residents in Prince William County to try to keep that 287G, but there were some pretty powerful forces advocating to eliminate it. How many other communities have these 287G agreements?
You have, and ICE they send out their monthly 287G reports, and the last one that came out just a few days ago, they said they have officially 141 287G agreements across the country. So it shows you the enormity of it. There are a lot of local agencies that see the value in this program. And actually, despite a number of high-profile defections from 287G, where you see a lot of maybe sheriffs that have been elected, they were bankrolled by open borders forces who were against it. They defected from the program, but despite those high-profile ones in the news, we've actually seen a rise in 287G agreements under President Trump's watch. So that is some good news there for the enforcement world.
Mm-hmm. Now, I in doing the research for this, I found a Washington Post article announcing that the jail board in Prince William had voted to end this agreement, and it was presented as this human rights victory and a victory for immigrants. And it made me wonder, Jason, what is the actual effect on immigrants in a community when 287G is ended? Are they really safer, or is it more dangerous?
Opponents of 287G almost universally will claim that 287G agreements are racist, that it targets the Latino community, and it forces people to be racially biased, or officers to be racially biased against Latinos, when in reality, I've seen no evidence of this, and actually it's the Latino community that hurts the most when these 287G agreements are nixed. Why is that? A lot of these people who are deported or targets of ICE are criminals, and a lot of them are gang related. They're in gangs, MS-13, Latin Kings, others. And we know, so much data has proven it, that members of a community will most likely harm other members of the same community. No one is affected more by MS-13 than members of the Latino community. So when MS-13, other gang members of Latin origin, are able to avoid ICE apprehension and remain in the community, it's the Latinos that are hurt the most.
So the other thing is, I remember not that long ago, there were certain politicians on Capitol Hill talking about defund ICE, and we got to reimagine ICE. And it seems like that didn't really go anywhere. And now all of a sudden, it seems like there's this push to end these 287G agreements. Isn't this sort of a backdoor way of accomplishing that original goal to sort of neutralize ICE in these communities?
Absolutely. Really defunding ICE versus, completely abolishing 287G programs. It's really two sides of the same coin. Politically, saying defund ICE, maybe people on the very far end of the anti-law enforcement open border spectrum will be on board for that. But the public at large knows that's not a good idea, and it's not a popular idea. So that sort of mantra can only get you so far. So these opponents of ICE, of immigration enforcement, will find more success, and not going so far as to say defund ICE altogether, but nixing all the programs and ways for ICE to actually do its job. And one way is 287G. So you see organizations, the American Civil Liberties Union, CASA, several of those of the same ilk, while they won't successfully be able to campaign for defund ICE, they can go for smaller ones here, such as taking away 287G.
Yeah. It may surprise people whether or not their community even has a 287G agreement. It's not the kind of thing that's highly publicized. What happens if someone is in a community where they see in their local paper, we have this agreement and it's under attack, and people are getting elected to these jail boards who are very anti-borders? Is there anything these citizens can do to advocate on behalf of keeping those agreements?
Absolutely. And yes, not many people are aware of 287G. As we were discussing earlier, that's like, 287G, that sounds like, some sort of just random number. I would really encourage the public at large to educate themselves on 287G and understand that it's simply a cooperation agreement between ICE and local law enforcement agencies. And I would argue that most people would think that that's a great agreement to have. So they need to educate themselves, and they need to push back, because there's a lot of money right now being funneled into campaigns to end the program. And what they need to do is fight back, let their local sheriff know, let their local county commissioners know that they support this program and they support ICE doing its job, arresting criminal aliens and bringing them to justice. There's so much money being pumped into the anti-borders, anti-ICE programs right now. As we were saying, a lot of people don't know, aren't aware of 287G. They would be surprised to learn how much effort is being put into campaigns to end it. Right now, the public really looks at the big campaigns, right? The presidential elections, senatorial, gubernatorial elections. but there is a lot of money being poured into local campaigns for sheriff and other very, very hyper local elections. The American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, last election cycle pumped in upwards of $100,000 in North Carolina alone to end 287G and other law enforcement initiatives. George Soros has pumped in thousands of dollars in these local elections to end 287G. And also, as we discussed, CASA, I mean, they're actively campaigning in areas to end it. And you were right. We're the only ones. IRLI, Immigration Reform Law Institute, is really the only one pushing back. In the case for Prince William County, it was IRLI that organized a protest in support of 287G. I mean, it just really goes to show you how lopsided the fight is right now for the people who want to preserve it and the people who want to take it out. So I think the public at large would be very surprised to see how much backdoor jockeying there is to end this.
Mm-hmm. It's also worth noting that another way to help in this effort is to support organizations like IRLI. IRLI is one of the only groups fighting in the courts for borders, safe communities, jobs for American citizens. It seems like everyone in Washington has a lobbyist group representing them, but who's representing these American citizens who just want to live in safety, be able to have jobs, live in good communities? IRLI is one of the only groups, and we had Chris Hayek on last time talking about this, when he files a brief on behalf of a law enforcement position. IRLI is the only group filing on that side. Everyone else filing, he said dozens of groups are filing for the anti-borders position. So people need to think about that as well. And the way you can find out more about this is to visit our website at irli.org. That's IRLI.org. You can donate there. You can read about what we're doing, our activities. We do a lot of opinion pieces in different news sites, and you can donate. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And Jason, I want to thank you very much for sharing that information with us. And again, please go to our website and read more about it, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right.